Hi everyone, I'm Amelia from the Brand Experience team, your co-host, and welcome to another episode of Provident's Money Wisdom Podcast. Today we have Chris, our founder and CEO, with us, and I'm very excited to be talking to him today about his latest Business Times article on legacy, which is lessons learned in legacy planning. So before we start, if you hear some buzzing sound, it's not Helen's fault, it's not our team's fault, it's because our neighbors are having a renovation. So please pardon us for that. So let's jump into the podcast and welcome Chris.
Hi Amelia, thank you for having me.
Yeah, okay, so let's go to the first question. So what strategies can parents use to teach hard work and delayed gratification to their children? Because with almost 3 decades of experience working with clients with legacy planning as part of everything, I'm sure you have come across a lot of this.
Yeah, thanks Amelia for that question. I think when it comes to things such as passing of values and teaching our kids, it's not something that can be done overnight. It has to be done over time. I was sharing, or rather like what I've shared in the article that I wrote for the Business Times, that most parents are sensible, right? And no sensible parents will start their parenting journey wanting to spoil their kids. Right? I don't think parents would want to do that. It's just that because of the small little things that we do when our kids are young, somehow it starts that process of spoiling our children without even us knowing, right? And over time, slowly, we reach a point whereby, by the time we realize that actually a lot of things that we do, they are actually not good for our children, maybe it's too late. So I think we need to start as young as when the children, they are maybe even toddlers, right? I mean, don't try to give them everything that they ask for. Right? I know it's hard. Sometimes they scream, they shout. I think we need to be able to explain to them why they cannot have everything in life. And I don't know about parents today, but in my generation, we use a lot of hand-me-downs, right? I know some parents today, they still do that. We try not to give our kids, my children, everything that's new. Actually, we welcome things that are old. So people, if they don't need to use it, they give it to us. We use it on our children, and we explain to them that these are things that have been handed over and they are still useful. We can use it. And then as the children get older, they understand better the value of money. We can teach them budgeting, right? We can teach them that, they cannot have everything that they have because there are limited resources, So we give them an allowance. We teach them how to budget. We tell them that we'll provide everything that they need. But if they want certain things that they want that are not necessary, they learn to budget for it. They learn to save for it. And then when they get even older, as soon as they can work, I think we should allow our children to work for their allowance or even part of their allowances, right? Even though you can well afford it, even though you have the wealth to support them, but allow them to work and encourage them to work as young as they can. I think these are good things that we can start our children on learning how to be more independent. So, for both of my children, they started working as young as, I think my son, when he was in secondary 4, he started working already.
The legal age.
I don't know whether it was legal age.
I think it is.
Is it legal age? Yeah, I don't know. But I remember him selling marigold drinks at fair price.
That's cute.
Right? And he was trying to get all the aunties to buy. And actually he did very well because this young boy, right? And I don't know, maybe he was still quite cute.
Yeah.
And so a lot of aunties, they will help, right? When he asked them to buy, and these aunties will buy. But the point here is that he started working as young as, I think, 16 years old. And my daughter just came back from Melbourne. She just graduated. But when she was in Melbourne, we gave her an allowance. It wasn't a lot. I think it was just enough for a very basic living. In fact, she told us that actually it's not even enough. And some days she has to queue in the university for frozen food. But she went to work. And in fact, I think her salary was probably 2.5 times more than what I gave her, right? So I think these are things that we allow them to do, even though sometimes it can be very difficult for parents to do that, because 心痛, we can't bear to see our children suffer. But by allowing to do that, I think we help them learn the value of money. We instill the value of prudence. We allow them to learn what is delayed gratification. And they will grow up not having that self-entitlement mindset and attitude.
It builds their character, and in a way, I see it as delayed gratification for the parents as well, because you do put in the hard work now, and you see your children becoming better adults in the future.
Yeah, and husband and wife must work together.
Yes.
Yeah, because sometimes one party will be more soft-hearted. In my case, it's me, right? My wife is a lot firmer, right? So sometimes, I have the temptation to when I know what my daughter is going through in Australia, I have that temptation to just transfer money to her, right? But it's my wife who say, no, let her do it herself, right? So I think husband and wife must work together. Of course, if both are of the same mindset, it's easier. But one is softer, more soft-hearted. Then, yes, I think the couple must then discuss together that, they are doing this for good. Because if only one does it, it's not going to work very well.
Consistent.
Yeah, because the child will know who to go to, right?
Yeah.
Right? And in fact, that can create some problems when husband and wife, they are not they're not united in the decision.
But it sounds like you have a great marriage, so...
Every marriage has their own problems. I'm sure many listeners out there, they would agree. It's how we cope with all these issues in our marriage, and also parenting. There will be plenty of disagreement when it comes to parenting, because we all come from different families. The way our parents have brought us up would be different. Right? So it's important to come together and say, okay, that's how our parents have brought us up. There are certain things that are good, there are certain things that are not so good, but how today, how we want to bring up our own children. So I think it's important to have that discussion and be united in some of these decisions.
Thanks for sharing, Chris. So on the topic of family, so what are the early signs that building wealth is harming family relationships?
Yeah, I think early signs, sometimes it's really very difficult. And by the time we realize that it has really affected family relationships, it can be too late. Yeah, some of the things that we can look out for would be to look at your calendar. I was taught that what we put into our calendar, what fill up our days and weeks, is an expression of what we believe in.
That's true.
So if you look at our calendars, the things that we put into our calendars, that shows where our dominant thoughts, that shows our priorities, right? Of course, for those of us who are working, it's impossible on the day-to-day basis that we have a lot of family activities during working hours. Yeah, but if you look at what is happening in the evenings, if you look at what is happening over the weekends, I think it tells us where our focus is. And if it's all just filled with work activities, business activities, personal activities, then it tells us where our heart is, right? And what we put into our calendars can be telltale signs on whether we are just spending our focus on something else. So that's one thing. Secondly, it would be the quality of our conversations with our family members, right? If on a day-to-day basis, we are just talking about superficial things, and superficial things are important, right? So, superficial things would be like, where do you want to go for dinner? What do you want to eat? And all that. Those are important conversations. But if throughout the week, there is no quality in our conversations, we go back home, we don't share with our families what has happened in the office, our children, they don't come back home, they don't tell us about, what they are going through in school. If you have children who are working, they don't come back and tell you, what they are going through at work, some of the challenges they are facing. They don't share the deepest thought. We don't have a chance to impart our values. We don't have a chance to share our thoughts with our spouses and our children. Then the quality of the conversation may not be very good, right? And, I think, many of us go through seasons, and there will be seasons whereby we have no time. We are just so busy, right? But just like there are 4 seasons in the weather, our seasons cannot last too long. It cannot be winter for 1 year, right? No deep conversations at all. If that's happening, that's a telltale sign. Whilst quality is important, I think quantity is also important. I know some people say that, I really have no time, I'm so busy, and therefore I spend quality time. But I've learned in my own marriage, I've learned in my own family that actually sometimes that can be an excuse. If there is no quantity, there can be no quality, right? Because when we don't spend enough time with our family, how can a quality conversation develop? And especially when our children, they are growing up, there are many teaching moments in their lives whereby you need to be there to engage in the conversation. You cannot create those teaching moments. If you're not there, you're not there. A young child will forget very quickly. They come back and they want to tell you what happened in school. And then if we say, I've got no time, tell me on a Saturday, tell me on a Sunday, that teaching moment is gone, right? A child may be involved in a sport. If you are not there to support that sport, you're going to miss a teaching moment. You're going to miss maybe that child falling down, that child scoring a good goal, whatever. You can't recreate these moments in that 2 hours on a Saturday or on a Sunday. I mean, it's not impossible. It's better than nothing, but it's not easy. Also, when I talk about quantity, right, I'm talking about how long do we talk to our loved ones before we get impatient? That's a telltale sign, right? I talk for 10 minutes and then I'm like, okay, it's enough. I need to get back to my work. Yeah, and then any more conversations, I'm like impatient. They say, okay, no time, right? Now, I'm able to share all these things not because I'm so wise. It's because there was a period in my life that I'm like that, right? I have no time, right? And I remember when my son was very young, I was working on a desk and he came to me and he wanted to tell me something. And I can't remember. Actually, I don't even know what he wanted to tell me. But I remember telling him and I told him that, okay, hang on, let me finish this. But I never finished. We never got to that conversation, right? So all these things that I'm sharing is not because I'm wise. Is I commit all these same mistakes myself, and I know that these are all telltale signs that we don't have a deep relationship, and we are just too busy building our careers and building wealth, and it's beginning to affect family relationships.
I still think there's a lot of wisdom there, and thanks for being self-reflective. I felt like I'm going through a counseling session and it really helps.
Yeah.
I mean, you're setting me up for success as well.
Yeah. I mean, it's always better to learn from someone else who have gone through these things in life than to learn from your own mistakes. But some people don't like to use the word mistakes, but a mistake is a mistake, right? And I guess what's most important thing is that we learn from these mistakes and we move on from these mistakes even stronger.
And where do we go from here?
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Okay, so for the next question, how does Provident help our clients balance saving for their children's future and spending on their own happiness?
Yeah, I think for us, it all starts with our discovery. It's how we start our conversation, right? In our industry, in the work that we do, wealth management, wealth advisory, whatever you call it, right? It is so easy and so typical to start our conversations from, what are your financial goals? What do you hope to achieve? When do you need to retire? How much money do you want to have? Right? Where do you want your children to go to school? How much would that cost? It's very typical to start that kind of conversations, right? But I think for us, we would like to have a much deeper conversation with our clients in the first meeting by asking them what they want their life to be and what are the things that they want to do in order to make that happen. We call that life goals. And I've explained this many, many times. Life goals, they are different from life events.
Yep.
Retirement, setting children for their tertiary education, Those are not life goals. I call them life events. All of us will have very similar life events. We all need to retire one day. If you have children, we hope to be able to support them to go through university. So life events are pretty similar. Buying a property is a life event. We all need a house to stay, so we need to buy a property. For some people who wants to buy a car, although car is not really necessary in Singapore, but yes, I will call them an event in life whereby I own my first car, right? But life goals can be quite different, or a lot more different from person to person, right? Life goals are your day-to-day things, shorter-term things that you want to do. They are really purposeful to help you to help you become the person that you want to be. Life goals can be, for example, I have a heart for broken families in Singapore, and I really want to be able to minister to them. I may have a heart for the orphans. I may have a heart for abandoned pets, right? Not everybody, they have similar aspiration. There are, but not many, right? So those are life goals, and it all comes from who you want to be and what you really want your life to be. So we want to start our conversations with our clients knowing what makes them happy, what is their value towards money, what are their life goals, right? And then we arrange their financial affairs so that they set aside some money if there's a need to enable these short-term life goals while setting aside enough money to be able to achieve the longer-term life events. And sometimes it's not just about money. It's also about rearranging your lives. Because for the things that you want to do, your life goals, it may mean that you need more time. And in the current job that you are in, maybe you just don't have time. And so you need a change of job. But that may affect your income, right? And so you need to do a bit of financial planning. And when we say financial planning, again, our industry is always synonymous to buying more products. But that's not financial planning. Financial planning can mean decluttering, right? You are now looking at how you arrange your expenses so that you spend a bit lesser. You can take a lower income. You can earn lesser wealth. You can give up certain business deals so that you're able to do these important things. So I think that's how we balance it. We don't necessarily start from just asking plenty of financial questions, and in the end, the wealth plan is all just about buying products. That to me is not financial planning. That to me is not the correct way to do financial planning or wealth planning.
It's not Provident's way at all.
It's definitely not our way. I think one day if we ever go down that road, I'll be very sad. I think the founding team will be very sad because that's not what we set out Provident to do. And I was, when I was walking to the studio, right, I was thinking in my head, I wasn't thinking about a question, but I was thinking in my head, I don't know why this thought came to my mind. Yeah, I mean, yes, we have done well over the last 2 decades. Our asset under management is decent. But globally speaking, we are not huge. Could we have gone much bigger or grown much bigger? Maybe. We'd be able to do much better? Maybe. But I think that would mean sacrificing a lot of these things that we believe in. Is it worth it? Well, it was Steve Jobs himself that said, when he was near the end of his life, that all these things means nothing. If you're not making an impact to the world for the things that we do. Yeah, so I'd rather spend a lot more time with clients trying to understand what actually is more important to them in their lives, arranging their financial affairs. Yeah, if there's a need to invest, let's invest. But it's not just about investing. It's not just about buying financial products.
It's really about the legacy we want to leave behind.
Yeah, and I think it's one of our greatest rewards. And just over the weekend, I was talking to a client. He's going to retire. He's a CEO of an MNC, and he's going to retire. At a very young age. He's just a few years older than me, and he's going to retire, right? And I was just telling him, I'm so happy for you that you can choose to retire, he's not going to stop working. He's just going to do a totally different thing with his life, right? And I was very encouraged when he said, thanks to Provident, because he's been one of our longest clients. And he said, thanks to Provident, I can do this, right? And I guess that's what the meaning of our work is all about. I think this is a lot more important than becoming so profitable, becoming the biggest financial institution in the world, if we cannot make an impact to clients' lives.
Have you been overwhelmed by market uncertainty in a landscape crowded with misinformation? Our new ebook, A More Reliable Way to Get Enough Investment Returns, is here to help. Each chapter is carefully curated to help you overcome confusion and empower you with knowledge that prioritizes reliable returns, guiding you towards a fulfilling investment experience. Check out the link in the show notes to download a complimentary copy of the full ebook today. Thank you, and let's get back to the episode.
Okay, for the next question, how can people comfortably discuss their legacy plans with their loved ones, especially in our very conservative Asian culture?
Yeah, I think it can't be done overnight. I mean, you're hearing this, and if your relationship with your family is not close enough, I can give you the steps. But such conversations, such intimate conversations cannot happen overnight, right? Because legacy plan is very private. And all this while, I've never had a chance to talk to my family about other deeper things in life. I cannot just sit them down one day during dinner and say, okay, guys, this is how I'm going to give my money to you. And this is why I'm going to give my money to you. It's because I love you. The word love cannot even come out from my mouth, right? If I've never had this kind of conversations, right? So this kind of conversations needs to happen over time. But it starts first from building trusted relationships over time with our family. And it doesn't have to be one conversation. It can be many conversations, right? And I think a good place to start, okay, once you have built a trusted relationship, and we have discussed many difficult conversations before, right? Not just legacy, but other difficult conversations before. Now we are ready to talk about this whole thing about legacy plan. I think a good place to start, which I sometimes encourage clients to do it, is go speak to your own beneficiaries. If you have 3 children, speak to each one of them separately and ask them, actually, what do they want? What would they appreciate, right? What is important for them? Try and understand. Because sometimes we second guess our children, right? We think that by giving them this particular asset, by giving them money, they will be happy. But not everyone is like that. I've spoken to people that the child doesn't want a house that the parent want to give him.
Wow.
I know it's hard to believe, right? I mean, I was like, give it to me. If your son doesn't want it, give it to me, right? Yeah, but there are reasons why he doesn't want it, you know? And so we cannot assume that giving things to our children is good and that's what they want. All our children, all our loved ones, they are different. So I think start by first maybe talking to them separately about you're planning for legacy, you're planning your estate, and you just want to hear what they want. Tell them your concerns, tell them your fear. Almost every client that we have spoken to, they always say, I want to be fair. All parents that I've spoken to, they said, I want to be fair, right? But fair means different things to different people, right?
Children, yeah.
So you might want to share with your children and say, I'm just afraid that after I give, you all may feel that I've been unfair, right? And hear what they say. They may surprise you, right? They may pleasantly surprise you. And I've heard of families whereby they have good kids and the kids tell them that, that is your money. How you want to give is up to you. We have no right to say whether it is fair or not. It's a gift, right? Even getting 10% is a gift already, right? So I think have that conversation first, and after you have that conversation, then you bring everybody to the table and say, I've spoken to all of you, right? And this is what I'm thinking. This is how I plan to give, right? And this is the reason why I give. And then everybody will have a common understanding and tell them that maybe I'll change along the way, but this is my decision. And if you have a very good relationship, to me, this conversation will be so heartwarming.
Yeah.
It strengthens the relationship more than it breaks it apart. Of course, sometimes even after you have done that, maybe it's a bit difficult for you to be able to bring it up. And if you have someone that you trust, it doesn't have to be a professional advisor, but if you have someone that you really trust and you think is able to facilitate the conversation, bring this person in. Of course, the family must be comfortable,
yeah.
as well, right? Yeah, but bring someone in to facilitate the conversation. It can be helpful.
Yeah. Each family is different, but importantly, it's the openness and the small steps towards that open relationships.
Just don't leave your legacy planning secret.
Yeah.
And then, when you are no longer around, it becomes a surprise. Hopefully not a shock, but a surprise. Yeah, if we can have this kind of very open conversation years before even your plans are being executed, I think it will be very helpful for the family.
So on this same vein, there's something called a letter of wishes. So how can we write a very heartfelt letter of wishes that conveys our values and intentions?
Yeah, I mean, there's really no one way. It's just that I've seen plenty of letter of wishes, and although the letter of wishes is not legally binding, so most people write the letter of wishes if they set up a trust. But nothing is going to stop you from writing a letter of wishes, even if you just write a will. But most of the time, it's used on a trust. It's an accompanying document that guides the trustees and the protector, especially if the trust is a discretionary trust, meaning you give this discretion to a trustee. And the trustee is not you. And if you have certain things, because it's discretionary, right? You want to sort of like guide the trustees to make this decision when you are no longer around. The letter of wishes is supposed to be very helpful. And the more detail you write the letter of wishes, the more helpful it would be for the trustees. Again, it's not legally binding. The trustees can choose not to do what you wish, but they won't. I mean, why would they, right? Usually they would, right? But like I said, most of the time when I look at letter of wishes, it's written in cold legal language. It doesn't really convey the thinking. It doesn't convey the why so much. It conveys a lot of the how, but it doesn't convey the why. An example would be in the letter of wishes, discretionary trust, you will say that, okay, the trust says give a fixed amount every month. But then if a certain event happens, the trustees on their own discretion can give an amount up to say $500,000, right? And then the letter of wishes, the settlor can say that, okay, some of these events would be, well, for example, medical, and if there's a medical, I hope that, my children will first do it in Singapore, and if they really can't, so they will say, right? And then the letter of wishes say, I hope the trustee will pay for it, and all that. Or, if my child comes with a business idea, I hope that the trustee will be able to find someone to go through the business plan and see whether it's viable, and if it's viable. So, but it's the how, but where's the why, right? So I think the letter of wishes needs to be more conveying the why. The how is, yes, must be there, but the why, and convey your concern. If I'm writing my letter of wishes, I will first start with how I make my money, what's my value towards money, how hard I work to be able to earn this money. I will write in my letter of wishes, even though I should have explained this to my children, I will write to them why I'm giving it this way. I will write in my letter of wishes why I'm giving, or rather, what I hope they will use the money for. I will write in my letter of wishes, I will tell them not to be burdened by money, even if they lose it, but if it's for a good reason, don't feel guilty, right? Money is transient. I will write to them and provide them some guidance on how they should manage the money. Most importantly, write the letter of wishes in your tone. Even if your language is not very strong, and from time to time I get you to check my grammar, right? Because writing good, proper, grammatically correct sentences is not it's not easy for me. I take time, right? So it doesn't matter that there's some broken English here and there, because that's you. And when you are no longer around and your loved ones read a letter of wishes, they know it's written by you, and Dad, he's always making that mistake. Told me how many times this mistake, but he's still making that mistake. It's actually very heartwarming, right?
It's very precious.
Yeah, actually. Because it's Dad. Okay, we told him many times not to use the word insurances because there's no such word. There's only insurance, but he's using it again, right? It shows that it's from Dad, right? So write in your tone. Of course, there are certain parts you may need a professional to help you. Like, for example, you may want to guide your children by giving them an investment mandate. Yeah, your trusted advisor can help you write it. You can always say, I would like you to manage the way that has been, is documented in this appendix. Then you can get the professional advisor to help you. But most 80% of the letter of wishes is in your own tone. I think if I receive a letter of wishes like that, I will treasure it more than a cold hard legal document or legally written document, right? Because it's not engaged by anyone. My dad wrote it. My mom wrote it. And you don't have to start writing your letter of wishes just when you start legacy planning. You can start writing out the outline now. You have an Excel file that collects all the I appreciate you, right?
Yes.
It becomes easier when you need to write it for someone. Why can't we do the same for our letter of wishes, right? We start to pen a bit it's like a journal, right?
Yeah.
So on a day-to-day basis, you encounter something, you may just want to pen it down. And when you really need to start writing, all your thoughts and points are there.
It's so sweet. Just thinking about it.
It's a love letter.
Yeah, it is. Okay, so how can individuals pass down their values, ethics, and life lessons?
Yeah, again, I don't think these things can be done through legacy planning. I don't think these things can be done through a legal document. I don't think these things can be done through buying a financial product. I cringe each time when I see the word passing your legacy by buying a index universal life policy, for example. I cringe because it's like, that's not legacy planning. That's buying a financial product, right? I think many things can be taught, but these things about values, ethics, life lessons, what you believe in, they have to be caught. People can't see your values. They only see your behaviors. They can't see your beliefs. You can tell them, but they can't see it. They can only hear it. They have to see your behaviors, right? So these things, legacy, in terms of passing down values, beliefs, takes time. Yes, we can say it to our children, but we actually have to model it for them. And there are difficult decisions that need to be made. You make them. Our loved ones look at us and say, okay, it's not just paying lip service, that is actually living it out for us to see. So of course, after you have modeled it, you can still write it down in your letter of wishes, right? And summarize whatever you believe in. But then that document becomes a lot more believable.
And consistent with what you portray.
Yeah, because if I'm the son reading it, I'll say, okay, that is just summarizing everything that he believes in. Anyway, he lived it out. I don't need this document. But he's summarizing it for us, right? Can you imagine how much a legacy you leave behind? Because your children will then tell their children, right, and say, this is how granddad lived his life, this is what he believes in. He showed us all his life, throughout his life, that he's like that. And he's now writing it like that.
You're making me cry.
Yeah, that's legacy planning, right? It's a long process. It's not something you sit down with a planner and then you do a trust, a will, buy a financial product and say, this is my legacy. There's no legacy here. That's just estate planning, actually. Yeah.
Okay. So I really enjoyed this conversation, but here's the last question. So what are the long-term benefits of thoughtful legacy planning that people often overlook?
Well, I think like many things in life, it is not the outcome, but the process that can be most beneficial. And legacy planning is one of those things in life. That the process of you thinking about it, planning it, is a lot more beneficial than the outcome. The outcome is just maybe some documents. The outcome is maybe just transferring of some assets. But it's actually the whole process that is a lot more beneficial. Because of the many conversations that you are having with your children, all those things that we have been talking about, one thing is for sure, relationships get strengthened. Because it's not one conversation, it's many, many conversations at a dinner table, or, in a meeting in a room, right? That our children, they really understand how you think. They know what moves your heart. They know how much love you have for them, because you're so thoughtful, you're so concerned that you send the wrong message. They know how precious they are to you. And so relationship definitely gets strengthened. Of course, the other benefit is family harmony is preserved. I think if we have long conversations like this, and ultimately when the morning after, they call it the morning after, and that's will get opened up, a trust deed is read, it's no secret anymore. You always knew that how dad and mom wanted it to be, right? So there's family harmony. Siblings don't quarrel, they don't get upset. Family members, they have clarity on what they need to do. I think the wealth can be better managed because you have shared with them how they should. And I guess the most important benefit would be that the family values that you treasure, the beliefs that you have, the belief system that you have, can be better passed down. So these are some of the benefits, but like I say, some of them that I've shared, they are the outcome, but it is really the process. And even before we reach this outcome, the years that you spend on sharing more and more about your thoughts with your family members just strengthen that relationship, right? And finally, when that day comes when you are no longer around, your family will celebrate your life. They'll remember you as a good dad or a good mom. Yeah.
This is both a somber and yet very heartwarming conversation. Thank you, Chris.
Yeah, I never intended it that way actually.
Yeah, but it just flowed that way, and I'm glad we had it.
But like I said, I'm glad you asked those questions, because I would have never asked myself those questions. And every month when I need to write the Business Times article, I have a limited space. About 1,200 words is about the most I can write, right? And many of these things, it's not easy to put down into words in that limited space, and because sometimes we are subject matter experts, we don't ask these seemingly simple questions to ourselves. But actually, the questions that you asked today, they're not simple. I actually took a bit of time to think about, how to actually do that. Yeah, so thanks for coming out with the questions and asking those questions.
Thanks for coming on the podcast, and I'm glad that we're able to expound beyond what's written in the article. Yeah, so that's all for this week's episode. We hope you enjoyed this conversation with myself and Chris as we talk about the lessons learned in legacy planning. So if you enjoyed this podcast, please rate us in your favorite podcast platform. And of course, the link to the Business Times article will be in the description below. So that's all for today, and we'll see you for the next podcast. Bye-bye. All analysis, views, or opinions from interviews, recommendations, and other information broadcasted, podcasted, or published herein are provided for general information purposes only. Information expressed does not take into account any specific situation, particular needs, or objectives, and should not be construed as specific advice or a recommendation. Information has been obtained from sources that are deemed to be reliable, but their accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed. Always consult with a qualified investment, legal or tax professional before taking any action. Provident Limited does not accept any liability for any loss whatsoever arising from any use of the information broadcasted, podcasted or published herein. All contents and information contained herein may not be copied or reproduced in whole or in part by any means without prior consent of Provident Limited.